See all these sacrifices I make, it's for a reason. You get out what you put in, and I put my heart into everything I do. Every day, every second, I'm going hard, still. You see all these sacrifices I make, it's for a reason. You get out what you put in, and I put my heart into everything I do. All the hard work pays off, that's why I work hard, no days off. I'm only human, I make mistakes, but I keep it real, no I'm never fake. This is what it takes to be great. Everything I make, gon' be great. This is what it takes to be great. Everything I make, gon' be great. All the hard work pays off, that's why I work hard, no days off. I'm only human, I make mistakes, but I keep it real, no I'm never fake. This is what it takes to be great. Everything I make gon' be great. This is what it takes to be great. Everything I make gon' be great. All the hard work pays off, that's why I work hard, no days off. I'm only human, I make mistakes, but I keep it real, no I'm never fake. This is what it takes to be great. Everything I make gon' be great. This is what it takes to be great. Everything I make gon' be great.
To prove it, I'm ready to do it, I can't be afraid now. Put me on the stage now, I'm ready to rage now. I feel like an animal stuck in a cage and I'm ready to break out. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. This time, like the last time, you better get ready to race to the top. I'm ready to do this, show you what the truth is. I step on the field, it's time to get real, I'm feeling so ruthless. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Lower the lights down, hand over my crown, hand over my heart. I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Yeah. So what are you afraid of? Those feelings are made of. Get in the game, your moment of fame, show them what you made of. It's time that we stand up, it's time that we man up. For anyone asking who is the best, we putting our hands up. My time, nothing can keep me from reaching the top. This time, like the last time, I'm moving so fast, I'm ready to ride. I'm ready to throw down, it's time for the showdown. I'm ready to rise, don't be surprised, I'll take on the world now. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Lower the lights down, hand over my crown, hand over my heart. I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. My town, my crown, we know what it takes to be reaching the top. We reaching the top. we're reaching the top. We know what it takes to be reaching the top. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. My town, my crown, we know what it takes to be reaching the top. We're reaching the top, we're reaching the top. We know what it takes to be reaching the top. Lower the lights down, hand over my crown, hand over my heart. I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Turning the track up, I'm never gon' back down. Hand over my heart, I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop.
This is virtual racing with real-life stakes.
Great drivers perform when the pressure is at its highest. And that's right here, right now.
I'll call this a 20-car pileup. I'll be good with that. As long as they put me in a checkered flag and victory lead.
It ain't a game now, me and you, we ain't the same now. Lions coming out to play now, opposition out the way now. Out of the way, you wasn't invited. Say you come to play, I dare you to try it. You don't wanna try me, then step up to my team. Yeah, out of the way, yeah, yeah. Out of the way, yeah, yeah. Out of the way.
The road to $300,000 takes a break at the midway point of the regular season for a night of fun from one of NASCAR's most historic tracks and one of iRacing's newest. Where tonight for the virtual North Wilkesboro Speedway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to the 2020 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series All-Star Race. We're happy to have you with us circa 1987. We're alongside Tim Terry. My name is Evan Pasoko, and Tim, a little bit of a treat in store for us tonight, not only in our choice of venue, but in our cars tonight as well, as these Coke Series stars trade their normal Cup Series rides for some NASCAR trucks tonight.
Yeah, it's great to see the Gander RV and outdoor trucks on the racetrack here this evening being used. And when you look at this racetrack, Evan, if you had an opportunity to drive it here in the last month or so since iRacing has released this racetrack, it's a very fun racetrack to drive. It's a very fun racetrack to watch some racing at. And when you throw the best sim racers on the oval side into these trucks, it's going to be a heck of a show tonight. We've got some heat races. We've got some consies coming up. We've got a feature of 120 laps. I can't wait for this.
Of course, we were all glued to that Pro Invitational Series finale here, which was kind of the world debut to North Wilkesboro to the world. And of course, here tonight, as I mentioned right off at the top, Tim, it is a break in regular season competition. We will not be handing out points in this championship until our next time out. We'll be headed to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in 2 weeks' time for round number 9. But with 8 races down, 8 to go before the playoffs, we hit the All-Star break, and the points are going to be a big top of a conversation moving forwards. Now, none are available here tonight. This is solely for bragging rights and $500 cash to your top finishers. Like that prize money is available every single week, but I would say the 8 races that we've seen so far, a healthy enough sample size to start talking about the playoff points and relegation like we introduced to all of you at home 2 weeks ago from the Atlanta Motor Speedway.
I think around race number 6 or so, after a few races in, Evan, if you dig yourself a hole, you really have to dig yourself out of it. As we talked with relegation last week, or the last time we joined you here on the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, those drivers that are fighting for playoff contention, yeah, they're fighting for a championship, or at least fighting for a spot to fight for a championship. We got some drivers, though, that need to start working. This is a fun night here tonight. There's not a whole lot of pressure on the line. There's no points associated with it, but there's a lot of pride and a little bit of money up top. But once we get done with tonight, the focus will shift to Indianapolis and those big points.
Yeah, and we're going to have a ton of time tonight as well to talk about North Wilkesboro, but let's take a look at the point standing graphic, and it is going to be a lot of information on your screen, but it is for good reason, and we'll walk you through all of this. So 40 drivers compete in this eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series in 2020, and there are 2 primary storylines. Number 1 is the battle for the playoff spot. So if you look top left on your screen, you'll see the current top 8 drivers in points above a red cut line. If the regular season ended tonight, those would be the drivers fighting for the playoffs. Of course, as we mentioned, still 8 races left to go until we actually hit that cut. Then the drivers below, the likes of Alfala, Boland, Clampett, Tim, you can see the gap to the leader. They're in the 50s, but the main thing is the playoff gap. -2, Ray Alfala, only 2 points out. Boland a little bit further down the line in 17. Those drivers in a position to want to fight to get a spot in the playoffs. But if you get closer to P20, then you want to look at that 4th category of stats, the relegation, because all those drivers on the right-hand side of your screen with their relegation total in yellow text are drivers that would not be locked in to this series for next year. So 2 battles that we're going to be following through the rest of the regular season, beginning, of course, with 2 weeks' time at Indianapolis, the battle to get into the playoffs and fight for a championship, and the battle to just stay in this series for 2021.
And the big thing to really watch that's going to be the ebb and flow of these numbers, Evan, is going to be that bubble or that gap in between. You look at Jake Nichols currently in position number 8. He's got no number associated with playoff because he is the bubble driver right now. He is the driver that is on the cut line. 1 point up is Brad Davies, 2 points back. 1 spot out is currently Ray Alfala. He looks the same thing as Jarl T. And when it comes to relegation, he is on the bubble for relegation. There is a tie for 19th in the points. So Nathan Lyon right ahead of him has a 0 in that mark. Then you look over to that second column, and there's probably one of the biggest names over there, and I say one of because there's a lot of big names on the outside, including our reigning champion Zach Novak. Matt Boos is a former championship contender. He's in 22nd right now. Corey Vincent has won a slew of races in this series. He's in 24th. You look at Casey Kerwin, perennial most popular driver in this series, in 27th. Dylan Duval's won a race in this series before, as is Eric J. Smith. Chris Overland, always one to watch. Ryan Schoenberg, a veteran of this series. There's a lot to fight for on the second column of this one. They all want to be on that first side, but they've got some work to do following North Wilkesboro tonight.
And you can see bottom right-hand side of your screen, with 8 races left to go to the playoffs, there are 360 points still available before we get to the playoff cuts. So nobody's fate is determined. Of course, we talk about consistency in this series. One thing that you will not see on those standings, Tim, is wins. Even though the fact that Keegan Leahy's only got 1 win, he's higher in the points than a 3-time race winner this season in Ryan Luza. Unlike in the NASCAR Cup Series, winning does not guarantee you a spot in the playoffs in this Coca-Cola iRacing series. It is all about consistency. So you have race winners like Al Falla down in 9th, somebody like an Ashton Crowder right there with his Burton Clearwood Esports teammate in Logan Clampett down in P12. Even Colin Keister, who we saw get a first career win a couple of weeks back, he gained a lot from that, gained 8 spots in the points, but he is still 36 below the playoff cut line in 16th in the championship standings. So wins and those big moments are important, yes, but consistency, I think, the biggest thing in this series.
You look at consistency, Graham Boland has been consistent in his rookie season, his first season in this eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series, Evan, and runs 10th right now in the standings, on the outside looking in as opposed to being on the inside the last couple of weeks. Then you look at sim racing veterans, guys like John Gorlinski, Chris Shearburn, Bob Bryant, all in the top 20 right now. Got some guys on the outside looking in as well that are going to be close, but you mentioned 360 is that bubble. You look at 96 back for Santiago Tires. They're not smashing the panic button yet, but they're pretty darn close to it. You really got to dig yourself out of a hole, because not only do you have to rely on your performance, you got to rely on those other 19 or so ahead of you, and then try to get onto that other side. It's a big hole for guys like Schoenberg and Tires, but we still have half of the regular season to go.
And we do have trucks on track as the practice session is drawn to a close, and single truck qualifying is due up next. They will only get 1 lap to set a queue time. Tim, let's talk about the format for tonight's all-star race. It starts with 33 eligible trucks, but we're going to split them up first into 2 different 20-lap heat races. The top 10 from each of those heat races will lock themselves in. However, a big thing to note for the heats off at the top is the top 6 positions on the grid for each heat will be inverted. So the fastest qualifier for the heat actually starts P6. P6 rolls from 1, 7th on back in the normal running order. We will see an invert in the heats as well in a feature race. Once we go through a 25-lap LCQ where the top 6 transfer, we'll get 26 trucks total for the main, 13 of which, Tim, in the feature will be inverted for that 120-lap feature race.
And the 1 point at the bottom of that, 2 sets of tires with the tire set limit rule that we have here on iRacing now. These cars and trucks essentially are going to have 8 tires. They're going to start with 4 tires on the truck. They're going to have 1 set of tires sitting in the pits. So strategy is going to be key. Should be a caution or so at around lap 100. So that's going to be very key on strategy as well, Evan. When do you come down and take those tires? Track position is going to be key here as well. Do you take them early? This is going to be fun.
Yeah, and they have a very small window of opportunity through qualified, but just the 1 lap. Of course, it is sort of a mistake in your heat race, not going to bode well for your hopes of trying to go deep into this evening, because, of course, only about, I think, 7-8 trucks not going to make the main event. Not our 40-car field here this evening, but certainly you don't want to be that guy who misses out. And as we mentioned, there are no points on the line. The big thing here is the bragging rights and that $500 cash prize, which is available every single week to your top finishers here in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. So the qualifying session has drawn to a close. Let's go trackside. Take a look at your starting grid as we get set for heat race number 1. Christian Challenger going to start this one from pole position, and he will bring us to the green flag alongside number 4 of Santi Tires. Colin Keister, Bobby Zelensky going to double up. Those start in 3rd and 4th position, respectively, with Logan Clamp at a P5, and courtesy of an invert, one of the fastest cars in Q, Jimmy Mullis, P6, Tim.
Michael Guest, Jake Nichols, your next row with Chris Overland and Ray Alfala, row number 5. Those would be your drivers starting in those top 10 positions, but in short track racing, you know everything is going to change. Nick Ottinger and Justin Bolton. You want to talk about 2 short track guys there in row 6.
And you continue on through, as you mentioned, Schoenberg, Cattell down at the very back of the field with Kerwin Leahy and Jeremy R. Allen. A lot of these trucks will look very similar to the NASCAR Cup Series cars in which these drivers normally pilot. All the numbers are what you are used to, but in case somebody has a little bit of a different looking paint scheme, we'll keep you posted. We talk about new things to the sim as well. Tim, I'm going to call the 17 to call into Keister. That is a Ford F-150, one of the newest pieces of content to the iRacing service.
They did a beautiful job with those Ford F-150s, and you mentioned Keister will roll off from position at number 3. Great overhead shot and a beautiful day here in Wilkes County, 78 degrees. Slight little wind. Track temperature is 123 degrees, and Evan, looking at the server time, it's about 12:30 server time, so that temperature may rise just a little bit. That track temperature is going to vary as the sun goes through this sky here this afternoon.
And just as well, getting confirmation from race control, Tyler D. Hudson, that there will be no caution flags for these heat races. It's pretty typical for heat-style racing in the virtual world, so it doesn't matter if you wad them up. We are racing 20 laps uninterrupted. So I think that goes back to the point that I had made earlier about very little room for error all night long, and it'll start here right off at the top with heat race number 1. We're going to get set to send our first 10 trucks to the feature race tonight, and 17 of them going to be vying for those positions. Pace truck going to be down and in. Let's see what the number 37 Chevrolet of Christian Challenger's got. He'll bring us at turn number 4. We're racing for heat race 1. First lap going to go to the 37 of Challenger. He's good as the top 2 break away. That's Challenger and Tires, who jumps up to the number 2 position. The battle's on for 3rd. Tim Zelensky on the outside. We're going to go the long way around Colin Keister.
Yeah, battles on for this spot. Battles on behind them as well. A reminder, the top 10 will transfer in to the main event. Jake Nichols side by side with Michael Guest just behind them. Track position here, Evan, is very key. You're going to have to try to fight for your line to try to get some track position and maybe pull away from these battles that are side by side. But look at Jimmy Mullis. He's already to the inside. That Coca-Cola Energy 46 looking good.
Next battle, you can see the number 99 Clampett trying to get to the inside of Zelensky, and he's going to be able to do so. So they'll dance side by side in this race for 5th and 6th, and that's the reason I mentioned why Zelensky trying to go to the outside of Keister long way around, because it's not really the preferred lane here at Wilkesboro as they go down the hill into turns 1 and 2. It'll be an uphill climb and now down the back straightaway to turn number 3 as we work lap number 5.
And now Jake Nichols going to try to take that opportunity to go to the inside of the 83 of Bobby Zelensky, but can't get there. Been keeping my eye, Evan, on this battle around the transfer position. Actually, it's for the transfer position. Chris Overland and Justin Bolton. Bolton's been able to roll the top a little bit in that push delivery number 10, but hasn't really been able to make a whole lot of ground. Overland holding his own on the inside, but Justin Bolton doing a great job on that top side.
And of course, no shock that up at the front of the field, your pole sitter Challenger still running away with Santiago Tires. You can see the full running order top of your screen as we watch this battle with Bolton. Again, the top 10 is the cut line. And right now, it is this exchange between Overland down low And the 10 machine up on the outside of the racetrack. Overland had it by a nose that time. There's some contact behind them. Nick Ottinger getting moved up and out of the way. That's Brandon Cattell who wants to get going in his iRacing Ford.
These drivers are kind of stuck behind this battle here, Evan. The 10 and the 16 side by side. Ottinger has nowhere to go. It looked like he went to the outside line to try to get that 10 truck to make that move and Justin Bolton to roll into that 10th place position. But Ottinger has Keegan Leahy also behind him. There's your point leader, currently on the outside looking in on a transfer position as we complete lap number 9 this time by. Bolton's been getting those runs off the corner. Chris Overland hasn't been able to solve them. Got a great run into corner number 1 this time. We'll see if he can roll the top. There's the 24 on your screen right now. Your drivers that are locked in right now, or at least in transfer positions, Evan, looking a little smooth right now, and it looks like they don't have a whole lot of pressure on them.
Yeah, nobody's really gained much. As you can see, your race leaders, coupled to the top cars there, as the Ford is dropping back just a little bit off the Challenger for the race lead. They have been pretty smooth. Jimmy Mullis, a big mover per se. He's about the challenge. Colin Keister for third. He started P6, so he's kind of one of the trucks that has been able to make moves more so than others. But the only driver who started outside of the top 10 that has worked their way into it was Bolton, who has cleared Overland back in the back. So for the moment, the battle for the transfer spot settles down with 8 laps to go this time by, and we talked about the lack of yellows. We haven't needed any so far, so everybody, all 15 who started this, still on track. The battling behind, but again, only the top 10 going to go to the feature.
The closest battle within the top 5 right now, Evan, just behind this battle for positions number 1 and 2. Jimmy Mullis taking a look. You can see him look at Colin Keister for position number 3, but that's about all it is right now. These guys are kind of comfortable riding in the top 10 as they only have 6 laps to go this next time by. So you're content to ride. You're going to be in the show. Those guys that are outside right now, as you ride on board with Jimmy Mullis, he's got a handful of steering wheel right now trying to take that 3rd place spot.
We got contact in the back as well. Chris Overland just got turned from 11th. And again, no yellows in this heat, so we stay green and right on board in the battle for 3rd. It's Mullis chasing down Keister for 3rd and 4th. I'll tell you what, Tim, Jimmy Mullis wants to get that spot on Keister. It would benefit him headed into the feature, although, of course, with the top 13 invert, maybe not. But the battle for 3rd and 4th is somewhat incidental because the top 10 is the golden ticket. And as long as these drivers mind their P's and Q's, with Tires closing back in on Challenger, the battle between 1st and 2nd down to about a truck length and a half. If they keep them steady, they're fine. It'll be 2 laps to go this next time.
Keister and Mullis have been able to drive down those top 2. Christian Chalmers held that position, little sideways for the 17, that time into 3. Jimmy Mullis pouring the pressure on. Santiago Tires having a great run there. There is a battle between the 2 of Ray Alfala, the 33 of Michael Guest. That is for position number 8. Both of those drivers, Evan, in the show. As long as they can keep those positions there, they'll come by this time and see the white flag as Jimmy Mullis begins to make the move.
He's looking to make things happen closer to the front. The battle for 3rd, white flag in the air, though, final time around in heat race number 1. Mullis the advantage. He'll be all the way clear in turn number 3, but it'll be 20 laps led from green to checker. Christian Challenger, checkered flag, and a winner in heat race number 1 punches his ticket onto the feature, along with the rest of your top 10 finishers, and Justin Bolton in the 10. That final transfer in his Busch Light delivery entry. The top 10 moving on.
And you kind of mentioned it about the battle between Overland and Nick Ottinger. That kind of let Justin Bolton breathe a little bit. Keegan Leahy was a little bit further behind, as you can see your top 10 on your screen. These drivers will be in the feature.
Those are the top 10 that are moving on, and we'll see them in the feature race a little bit later on this evening. Second slot of cars, 11th through 17th, get ahead to the LCQ to try to find their way in that last chance to race. Let's go trackside, though, once more. Take a look at your starting grid as we get set for heat race number 2. We'll take a quick opportunity to step aside, and when we come back, truck's going to be on track. 10 drivers to the feature. We'll send 10 more next. You're watching the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series All-Star Race at North Wilkesboro Speedway.
For those living together and those living apart. For classmates, graduates, and teachers making the best of it. For the restaurants delivering to our doorsteps. For the frontline workers putting it on the line every single day. For this great nation, determined to be stronger on the other side. Thanks to all of you, we'll be together again.
And back live for the North Wilkesboro Speedway. Coverage of tonight's race is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. And by Asus, an official gaming hardware partner of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. Heat race number 1 in the books. It was Christian Challenger. Checkered flag all the way to advance into the feature race as we get set now for the next set of 16 cars. Let's take a look at your starting grid for heat race number 2. This one will see the Renegades number 55 of Kane Cook bring us to the green alongside defending series champion Zach Novak. McCollum Bolin going to make up row 2 with Brad Davies and Corey Vincent. Tim Terry, our top 6.
Your next row sees Nathan Lyon and the Coca-Cola entry of Blake Reynolds to the outside of row number 4. Michael Guerrilla and Eric Smith, the Jim Beaver Esports teammates, in row number 5, completing your top 10. Then Phil Diaz and Matt Busa on the outside of those transfer positions looking in as we start.
Yeah, a lot of ways to go for the likes of Gorlinski, Luza, and Duval, of course. They're going to be 14th, 15th, and 16th with only the top 10 to making it in. And as I mentioned early in that heat, and it did stay true, only one driver started outside of the top 10 but moved into a transfer spot in Heat Race 1, and that was Justin Bolton going 12th to 10th. Tim, I know those are some awfully big names in this series back there, so curious if they're going to be able to get the job done or if they'll find it equally as difficult.
You know, looking back there at some of those names, though, we didn't do a formal Tim Facts segment here tonight, but looking back at the last 5 short track races, Evan, 3 of those have been won by Ryan Luza. One of those other ones he finished in second. The other one he didn't participate in. Ryan Luza really good on these short tracks when it comes to the series, albeit it's a different short track. We haven't run here before. We haven't run this vehicle before. Ryan Luza's got his work cut out for him starting at the back of the field, but I think he's going to be one to watch as we move forward here. If not transferring through this heat race, he'll be a very heavy favorite, I would say, for that last chance qualifier.
Saw some chaos as well late in heat race number 1. The likes of Chris Overland in contact with Nick Ottinger, some other drivers, but it was outside of a transfer spot. We'll see if this heat race has any fireworks amongst the drivers towards the front of the field. The pace car down it in. Let's see what Kane Cook's got. The number 55 Toyota Tundra. We're green. It's heat race number 2. And at the start of this one, it's going to be the top 4 drivers that single file themselves out. Battle going to be for P5. Davies to the inside of Corey Vincent. And a lot of 2x2 behind them. A spinner in the back up and into the outside wall. That was Dylan Duval. Now more spinning. But a back straightaway, that was Eric Smith. Way out of control, but he hangs on into number 9.
And Evan, that started with his teammate Michael Guerrilla going side by side. They made a little contact. Eric got shoved up the racetrack, and they got shoved up again. Behind him, it's Busa and Diaz battling side by side, but it's outside of a transfer position. Here's the number 6 and Nathan Lyon on your screen trying to defend, and here is Alex McCollum trying to take away what would be a win in this heat race.
And that on-board look, I like to call it the virtual visor cam, because that's basically exactly the view that Alex McCollum has back at his home as he rides in third. Now picking up the battle between Vincent and Davies, still on for P5 and 6, but it is the outside paying dividends. The 27 truck wins that fight for the moment. Trucks in line single file. A lot of trucks here, the likes of Reynolds, Lyon, not that far off as well.
You know, we kind of saw it a little bit earlier as we got a battle for the transfer position. John Gorlinski just used the bump and run back there, and Eric Smith, you saw it there out of the corner of your screen. Gorlinski made the move. Eric J. Smith, they're putting on a show back there for position number 10, but we saw that early in the race, in heat race number 1, Evan, where Justin Bolton used that high side. It's all a fixed setup. These drivers are all running the same setup, but if you can set yourself up and kind of roll the top, the side-by-side isn't too bad here for a couple laps, but you got to make it work on that high side, and you got to make sure it's done in a couple laps.
And another big bump back into traffic as it's Eric Smith now off it into the grass. There he is at the very mid-pack there as he blends back up in line. It was a bump by Michael Conti that moved him up and out of the way. So it's the throwback look for Gorlinski, represented William Byron Esports. He is in position number 10. He actually passed the driver that's chasing him down, Michael Conti, in 11th. We'll see if that Junior Motorsports WRN Sim Chassis Chevy Silverado going to catch up to him. It's a difference of about a truck length and some change. As we look further up the running order, and Zach Novak closed it in on Kane Cook. 1, 2, 3, 4 remain unchanged since the start. And that time through, we're halfway in heat race 2.
And you see this battle for the top 3. There's not a whole lot of pressure from behind, but that first heat race that we saw, Evan, we saw the accordion kind of come together with about 5 laps to go. These drivers have been nose to tail since we started. Great shot there as those trucks go by down the back straightaway. Those top 3 have been putting on a show. The battle for the transfer has been putting on a show. These drivers are not afraid to use the bumper and maybe use a little bit of a hip check as well here at Wilkesboro as we continue on in the second half of this one. We'll see if Zach Novak can make a move here for the lead, how bad he wants to win a heat race, and you know, maybe that will change that momentum. We saw him fighting for the bubble and relegation off the top of the show.
It's certainly not a position that he thought he would be in. And look at the move now by McCollum. Instead of going to the bumper, he's going to look to the outside and try to make that high line work on the Sunoco Toyota of Novak in second. Thought he might have had an opportunity to get a nose there. Drops back to the car length in 3 and 4, and he's going to try to figure this one out. Again, we saw Challoner win heat race 1 from pole position. Kane Cook's trying to do the same thing, but he's got 2 formidable foes behind him. Coming to 6 laps to go this time by. Novak looking again on the exit of 4.
Novak drove it in deep down into corner number 3 to try to pick it up. There is your battle for your transfer position on the right-hand side of your screen. And Conti is digging, little bump to the back bumper of the 97 of John Gorlinski. Takes another look that time. These guys have not been afraid to use the bumper. Look at the back tailgate of that 97 after that battle with Eric Smith earlier. Another little shot in the shorts down into corner number 4. Conti wants it. Looking to the inside here with 5 laps to go.
Yes, you've got the 3-way battle for the race lead, left-hand side of your screen, and then the battle for the transfer spot on the right. There's Conti again. He is working over the 97 to Gorlinski, and it's not only back-end damage on the 97, it's front-end as well, because Gorlinski put the bumper to Eric J. Smith a little bit later on. So it goes around, comes around. Now he has got to fight off Conti. Looking to the outside. Coming to 3 laps to go next time by. On board with the 8. Yeah,
and Evan, you can see those drivers kind of forming in behind. Conti knows that he has to go because Matt Busa and Phil Diaz are coming, and he's running out of laps, so come back by this time and see 2 laps to go. We saw the outside work. You really got to roll the top, and Conti is making it work on the outside of Gorlinski as they come to 2 to go.
Yeah, Busa could stand to benefit if the 8 in the 97 to come to blows. He makes a little bit of contact that time. Gorlinski is sideways off of the corner, and he gets too loose. Catches it still, drives it into turn 3, but Michael Conti clear in the battle for position number 10. White flag back to the front of the field. Kane Cook with a truck length to spare. It's McCollum to the inside in the 55. Is slow in turns 3 and 4. Zach and Novak slides at a 4 and wins in heat race 2.
I'm not sure if Kane Cook tried to play the invert there or not, Evan. That might be a little too much evidence of sandbagging coming off of turn number 4, but I think that's what he did because we're inverting 13. He finished in 6th, didn't he?
And that would put him basically at the bottom of the invert if that is able to fly. So Cook drops to P6. All the drivers on your screen are moving on. And it was a 3-way battle for the race lead, it turns out, in 3 and 4. Novak all the way down through Michael Conti, who outlasted the rest of the drivers of the battle for 10th, who are moving on. Those bottom 6, Diaz, Gorlinski, Busa, Smith, Duval, and Luza, are all headed to the LCQ, which is starting right now. So let's take a look at the starting grid for the LCQ. This time through, only the top 6 finishers going to make it to the feature, and there's your top 6 headed to the green flag. Keegan Leahy, Phil Diaz on row 1 with Casey Kerwin, John Gorlinski through 4th, Brandon Cattell and Matt Busa, the top 6.
And you look at the second page of drivers that really have to get going here, or at least pick up a couple of spots. Chris Overland, Eric Smith got bounced around like a pinball in that last heat race. You got Nick Ottinger, Dylan Duval in row number 5, and Schoenberg and Ryan Luza starting scratch on this race.
The look top to bottom at your running order for this one. Jeremy R. Allen, the opportunity to roll from 13th, but I do not think he is going to be headed to the grid for this one. It's going to be 12 trucks, 6 spots off into the main event, and it is a little bit different, Tim. We go from 20 laps to 25, so that little bit of added distance could play a factor, and of course, less spots available with that cut line being the top 6.
It could play a factor, but I think we're also going to see a small little snippet of a tire management. Kind of saw it in those 20-lap races as well, but how do you manage your tires? We talked about 2 sets of tires in the feature event, an 8-tire race when it comes to that 120-lap event. How do you manage your tires? Can this be a sample size, per se, of 25 laps? See what transpires here, but you look at that, your point leader, a championship contender last year, Keegan Leahy starts on the pole of the last chance qualifier. We'll see what happens here and see what he can learn over 25 laps.
And of course, we talk about Gorlinski, you mentioned, just missed out on the battle for the cut in heat race number 2. He has a pretty good position. Those are some of the trucks with different paint schemes. Jordan Brandy on Casey Kerwin's Denny Hamlin Racing Toyota Tundra. And a bit of a special paint scheme with Williams Esports entries. Matt Busa somehow, I think, allowed Logan Clampett to paint his car, and apparently the number 1 fan at Ottinger, so that's some of the different paint schemes that are in the field here this evening. So 25 laps and 6 more spots in our feature race available from historic virtual North Wilkesboro Speedway. Green flag flies. It's the LCQ for the Coca-Cola All-Star Race. And competitive from the start of this one. Kerwin steps up in front of Phil Diaz. He completes the pass for 2nd, and we are door banging for 4th and 5th. Cattell on the inside of Gorlinski. More contact now, down into turn 3.
That's just great short track racing back there. The 9 of Eric J. Smith has a bobble on that inside line, going to lose a little bit of time and going to be eaten up by the rest of this field. Dylan Duval to the outside, Ottinger closing it, Overland around at the back of the field. As we continue on down the back straightaway, the transfer positions are starting to get hot.
I'm not going to make a joke about it's the second spin for the ride spin Ford of Overland, but a tough break after wrecking out of his heat race as well earlier in the evening. You're on board, though, with Eric Smith. He's back in P8, and they are 3 wide up the road. That's where he needs to get if he wants to be in a transfer spot, but under fire, battling with Ryan Luza. There's the battle, 4th on back. Cattell trying to hold off these two, and some more beating and bang at that time. The 5 and a 97 very much attracted to each other.
You know what, if I'm Nick Ottinger sitting back there in position number 8, I might let these guys battle it out in front as Gorlinski gives a shot to the 14, opens the door to the inside of Cattell. We got a battle for position number 4 in our hands. Where does Matt Busa go? Ottinger goes to the inside in behind this battle. The 14 and the 97 been leaning on each other since we started this race 6 laps ago, and I don't think it's going to end as you ride on board with Matt Busa. Where do you go if you're the 5?
You can see looking high, looking low, but there is nowhere to go as those two just will not get off of each other. What this is doing, though, it is allowing the top 3 trucks to pull away. It's basically log jamming 4th on back, a little bit sideways that time off the corner for John Gorlinski, who is battling Cattell ferociously. Again, this just the battle for 4th and 5th. The actual bubble driver is Busa, and of course he doesn't want to sit behind this because the longer he does, it may open up the door for Dylan Duval, the challenger in P7. There's a look at your top 3, though, that have pulled away from that battle for 4th on back.
Casey Kerwin comfortably in position number 2, Phil Diaz right in behind, and then that Hornet's Nest back for 4th on back. And plenty of laps to work here as Gorlinski continues to work that inside. He drove it in deep to corner number 3. It's easy to overdrive turn number 3, Evan, especially when there's somebody on the outside of you, and you know, you might be able to save it a little bit, and there's a little more contact. 14 up the hill. He might get shoved up the hill a little more. Busa goes to the inside of Cattell. Dylan Duval, and here comes the train, and where did Ryan Luza come from?
And again, this was all inside of a transfer spot, but here comes the Haas entry behind of Dylan Duval in 7th. In fact, side by side with Nick Ottinger. Those 2 trucks outside of the top 6 bubble, both gunning for the back of the 14 of Brandon Cattell. It is going to be a long 14 laps to go, and there's contact. Duval sideways, and Nick Ottinger going to get around him on the outside. So does that 53 of Luza.
They are leaning on each other like it's the last lap. Duval gets sent into corner number 3 by the 9 of Eric Smith. They keep it straight somehow, but Duval's going to lose a ton of time to this battle on your screen as John Gorlinski now leads this pack around with Busa and Cattell holding on to position number 6. But if I'm Brandon Cattell, I don't want to look behind me. I got Nick Ottinger and Ryan Luza there, 2 drivers that have won their share of races, but they're outside looking in. Here's Nick Ottinger. He's got to dig.
Well, the back of the number 53 Ford says it's Luza time, Tim, but with 10 laps to go, I think it's go time. He needs to catch that 14 of Brandon Cattell. Last lap, they were pretty much even, so he's going to have to find those 0.4 of a second somewhere if he wants to be in the main event.
Get 9.5 laps or so to do it as you look back from Brandon Cattell. That is the transfer position. Ryan Luza is really able to roll that truck middle corner off, and Brandon Cattell is keeping him honest back there. This is going to be a battle, and we might end up seeing a couple of bumpers being exchanged here, I think.
And there's a hard drive all the way to the inside. Brandon Cattell just messed up in turn number 3, and he opens up the door to 3-time race winner this year in Lusa, but he wasn't able to make it stick to the inside that time. He tucks back in line, resets, and is going to have to try it again. But if I'm Cattell, the car's in front of me getting further away, the car's behind closer, and a bump and run in turn 3. Lusa going to make the pass for P6. Does Cattell go for payback?
Absolutely, he does. Shoves that 53 up the hill, and you had to do that. You don't have many laps left to go, and you can't let that 53 drive away from you. But now Ryan Lewis, I'm sure he's seeing a little bit of red right now, but he's got to look in front of him because now we got another battle on our hands. Brandon Cattell now has to play defense again because Nick Ottinger is digging one more time.
Yeah, the bump and run on the 53 of Lewis does not get him in the clear because Cattell is now under fire and up at the front of the field now, a battle for the lead. In this LCQ to the inside is Casey Kerwin on teammate Key Leahy. The Denny Hamlin Racing Toyotas battling for the race lead. Kerwin from 3rd, trying to take the lead away from Leahy. He's led it all the way, a little bit sideways that time to 4, and for the first time all night, somebody other than your pole sitter leads a lap at North Wilkesboro. And it seems that Kerwin now establishing that position at the front of the field is going to pull away. He's up on lap traffic in Ryan Lewis. Tim a little bit sideways that time for Leahy, who took some evasive action to the inside of the racetrack, nearly spun that Direct Force Pro Toyota out, but I was just curious if Lusa was waiting to issue some payback, courtesy of Brandon Cattell in the battle that those two had. They're about to come up on each other, and he let him go. No, Lusa's not happy. The 53 in the 14 car, the 14 in a transfer spot. Lusa a lap down, and the payback is going to allow Ottinger to get through. Now Cattell gives a shunt to the 25. He'll spin him out another wreck in turn 4. Cattell up and over with a huge mess in a battle for P6.
And that's going to be the finish to that one. Casey Kerwin is going to pick up the win, and that battle at the end is, it looks like, going to go to Nick Ottinger. That was quite interesting. That's short track racing, right?
Lusa slowed down after Cattell gave him the bump and run earlier in the LCQ. Slowed down to check him up. That's the Joey Logano move, if you would. And then after some extracurriculars, it was Ottinger passing Cattell. Cattell tried to spit him out, spun himself out, and Nick Ottinger slides in P6. Not to mention, Kerwin wins the thing. Diaz, Leahy, Gorlinski, Busa, the rest of those top 6 finishers were headed to the feature race. So some light fireworks at LCQ, but our 26 truck feature race field is set. All that's left now is to go racing for $500. We'll take a quick opportunity to step aside one more time. And when we come back, it's time for the feature. You're watching the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series on the iRacing Esports Network.
For those living together and those living apart. For classmates, graduates, and teachers making the best of it. For the restaurants delivering to our doorsteps. For the frontline workers putting it on the line every single day. For this great nation determined to be stronger on the other side. Thanks to all of you, we'll be together again.
Coverage of tonight's race is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. And by Asus, an official gaming hardware partner of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. Happy that you're with us on the iRacing Sports Network. Evan Pasoko, Tim Terry with you as we are moments away from going feature race racing in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. Happy that you're all with us, and we want you to be a part of the conversation. Use the hashtag eNASCAR. Let us know who you think's going to walk away with the win, Tim. But just as we did a couple of weeks back at Atlanta Motor Speedway, an opportunity for all of you tuning in at home to win tonight with our Asus All-Star giveaway. You can win an annual iRacing membership along with an ROG Strix B550F gaming Wi-Fi motherboard and an ROG Strix RX 5700 XT graphics card. You can enter this giveaway by following Asus on their Twitter account at ASUS_ROGNA. You can look for the tweet and the link to the giveaway. You can also find more information on the rest of their social channels. And Tim, I don't think if I win it's valid, but I entered as well, and encourage everybody at home to get on that. And a big thanks to our friends at Asus for putting that up tonight.
Yeah, I don't think I'm eligible either, but I'm going to head over there anyway. I know the Asus products. I use them all here, so to get us on the air tonight. So great to have them on board with the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. And Evan, drivers are warming up. We're getting ready for 120 laps.
And as we talked off at the top of the show, this is the halfway point of the regular season. We talked points, but let's talk schedule with 8 regular season races down and 8 to go. That's us, kind of mid-left there on the screen with the asterisk, the All-Star race tonight. We will be back for our next points race 2 weeks' time on Tuesday, June the 30th from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We had a lot of those kind of intermediate tracks in the opening half of this season, Tim, through Homestead, down to Charlotte, Atlanta, but I'll tell you what, the second half of this regular season, as we race towards a playoff opener in October from Charlotte, is tricky. Indy, New Hampshire, Michigan, a road course in there in Watkins Glen, and then, of course, at the end of the regular season, you have 2 plate races in 4 weeks, including a regular season finale at Talladega. Certainly going to be thrilling as we look to whittle that field down of 40 hopefuls to 8 championship contenders.
You've got some really different racetracks, as you mentioned, in there. And these drivers that were on the second column when we looked at that points graphic a little bit earlier, they have to be good at all of them and find some luck at Daytona and Talladega and make sure they're not on the wrong side of the inch when they go there, because if they end up in the big one, they could end up in the big one by being relegated if they don't perform in those final 4 playoff races at the Roval, Kansas, Texas, and Phoenix. It's a very diverse schedule that we have coming up in the second half, but now we get to breathe a little bit. We don't have to worry about that until maybe tomorrow, because these drivers, there's a little bit of pride on the line, there's a little bit of money on the line tonight. There's no points on the line when we go racing here in just a few moments.
Yeah, they're having fun. Brandon Cattell wrecked out at the end of the LCQ. He was laughing and having a good time, Tim. I do want to ask you, though, we talked off at the top about how the point structure works in this series. The fact that there is no win and you're in. So Ryan loses 3 wins, just as good as Garrett Lowe, second in the points with none. Typically in NASCAR racing, I would look at a Daytona and a Talladega late in the regular season and kind of think, hey, that's maybe an opportunity for somebody who doesn't have the speed of the other top teams at most of the other races to get a win and lock themselves in. But without that element in this series, does that maybe change some guys going for broke? I mean, you could go into Talladega 20 points up on the cut line. Do you just sit back and hang out? I mean, we could really see some very interesting points plays when we get there.
I think when we looked at that points graphic a little bit earlier, if you're hanging around those bubble positions, and I mean the bubble position to make it into the playoffs and around that relegation round, even though the relegation goes until the end of the season, you really have to necessarily pour it on at Indianapolis, New Hampshire. Those tracks, you really can control your destiny. I got tracks like Watkins Glen, if you're good at the road course, guys like Michael Conti and Bobby Zelensky, you can make up some points there. You can really make sure that you have that advantage going into Daytona or Talladega, because as much as you can gain points there, if you have some luck, you can lose them in a hurry. So when we get back racing for points at Indianapolis, we're going to see some of those drivers with that sense of urgency. You might see a couple of Hail Marys being thrown before we hit those plate tracks.
Fun little Easter egg we saw with the Pro Invitational Series race here on Fox a couple of weeks back was Dale Jr. and iRacing's Steve Myers hanging out in the souvenir stand on the back straightaway. Tim, and talking about recent news, we wanted to congratulate Dale on being a first ballot Hall of Famer today, inducted into the NASCAR Hall of Fame class of 2021. Has had such an immeasurable impact on NASCAR itself, but I think that legacy extends over to his impact in the sim world as well. So big congrats to Dale and his family on that induction today.
And I think that was their reaction to the Hall of Fame news as well. You know, they're pretty happy over there, and you can find Dale and Steve in each of the iRacing racetracks. So if you were on the sim, you can take a look around with some of the cameras and try to find Dale and Steve at every single racetrack that we have. But here's the problem that I have, Evan. The souvenir shack looks a little empty. Did they sell out already? I mean, we're not even to the feature yet.
Well, I think if it was possible to sell out of virtual tracks, they may have sold out of North Wilkesboro Speedway on the service, because I'll tell you what, it has been everywhere on iRacing since its release just a little bit over a month ago to the general public. Also, Red Farmer, Mike Stefanik, want to give a call to those two as the other two inductees today into the NASCAR Hall of Fame. So we are in the warm-up session, getting set for a 26-truck feature. And let's go back over the format for this main event, Tim, one more time. 120 laps with a top 13 invert. That is important to note, but what you mentioned at the beginning is what I want to highlight here. Only 2 sets of tires. This is a new feature to the iRacing service, and we're using it here tonight.
Yeah, for those short track guys that might be used to it, it's an 8-tire race. You're going to start with the 4 tires that are on the truck. You're going to have a set of tires or 4 tires in the pits to put on that truck at some point. We're going to have a caution with about 100 laps into this race. It is admin or manual cautions here tonight. But if we get a caution at about lap 50 and you're screaming for tires, do you come in then and take those tires and hope those guys in front of you pit and then get the track position and let that play out? I don't know how you play this. I don't know where the cautions are going to fly.
And at ROG Strix RX 5700 XT graphics card, to get more info on their Twitter at Asus_ROGNA for more information. A official proud hardware partner of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. We're going to get set to go racing for the feature race from North Wilkesboro Speedway as we crank up the music and head trackside for tonight's feature race. So pole position, courtesy of the invert, belongs to Jake Nichols. He will bring us to the green flag at his Motorsports entry, and he will be joined by the 55 of Kane Cook. The game of chicken in his heat race pays out. Bobby Zelensky rolling from third, will be joined by Blake Reynolds to the outside of row 2 with Logan Clampett and Corey Vincent, your top 6.
Colin Keister and Graham Boland, row number 4. Row number 5, Jimmy Mullis and Alex McCollum, 2 short track guys there in 9th and 10th. And Santi Tierrez and Zach Novak, your reigning series champion, in 12th.
Continuing on down through 13th position, the likes of Christian Challenger, Brad Davies, Ray Alfala, and Nathan Lyon. Through the number 16 spot, Michael Guest and Michael Guerrilla, 17th and 18th position. And then, Tim, it was Justin Bolt and Michael Conti, the final transfers from the heat races.
And then we move on to those drivers that had to work through that last chance race. Casey Kerwin, Phil Diaz had a pretty easy time in that last chance qualifier. Keegan Leahy, John Gorlinski, and Matt Busa. Nick Ottinger sliding in at the end to take that 26th and final position. I'm ready to go racing. Are you?
We're ready to rock and roll for 120 laps. So this race is going to be a little bit different as well. There were no cautions, no matter what happened in our heat races at LCQs, Tim. Not the case for this feature. Cautions are at the discretion of race control, so you may not see one for a single truck spin. You'll likely see one if it's a parking lot down in turn number 1 at the bottom of the hill. But coupled with that, and it be a longer race, makes this way different than the sprints of the heat races earlier.
And you look at your temperature, it's risen 1 degree. Your track temp is also risen 1 degree. Wind at 2 miles an hour. So the sun is still overhead of this racetrack. Still a couple of clouds in the sky. Is a beautiful shot from up above. We see these trucks come by this time. They'll take the one to go and we'll be ready to go racing for 120 laps. Interested to see how these guys set the pace up in front, Evan. We mentioned those 8 tires that they have at their disposal. Do you use them up quick? Do you expect some cautions? Do we have short runs? I'm interested to see how this strategy really plays out over 120 laps, because that's going to dictate who ends up in victory lane at the end of this thing.
And so happy to have you with us on the iRacing Sports Network on this Tuesday, as we are every week. Evan Pasoko, Tim Terry along for the ride with you as we get set to go racing. Pace truck down and in. The field going to be in the hands of the number 24. That is Jake Nichols, as we say, let's go All-Star Racing from North Wilkesboro. Lap 1 goes to the number 24 Ford. Lots of side-by-side, back-to-back. Tim, the biggest field we've seen at this point was 16 cars. 26 of them make it through lap number 1.
And the first side-by-side battle is back there around that 3 and the 27 of Blake Reynolds and the 27 of Corey Vincent, middle of the pack. The Christian Chalner 37 trying to work his way up. I know Steve Lovender loved that paint scheme on that number 37 as he battles with Zach Novak to the outside. The 90 kind of mired on the outside there. Box didn't really know where to go.
Well, big slide there. He was looking to the inside of Jimmy Mullis, but he took a shot from the rear. That was the 4 of Santiago Tires who got into him in that Latar Esports entry. The 3 of Reynolds up the road. He ducks down. That single files out. Your top 8 trucks now. Poland now finding the 90 of Novak for P10.
Right behind them, right in front of them, Alex McCollum trying to pick up that position on Blake Reynolds. Reynolds was able to get to the inside line. Alex McCollum able to get there as well as you go side by side with the 90 of Zach Novak, trying to roll the top. It looks like he might have this position here.
That was a good look with Colin Keister and what he's doing from behind the wheel of his Facetal Ford. He finds himself in the number 5 position, up 1 from the start. Actually now at 2 spots for the start of this race. A little bit further down the running order, you will find the VRS Silverado. That is Ray Alfala chasing down Brad Davies. Back here mid-pack, but 3.5 seconds off of the battle for the race lead.
And Evan, you saw the eyes of Ray Alfala go back and forth in that shot. He was focused, as was Colin Keister, but he was kind of, I think, looking in the rearview mirror a little bit and trying to manage the gap that he has here. And mentioned conserving tires as well. Middle of the pack, you might not think as much, but when do you push the issue on Brad Davies to try to pick up one more position? You look back to Nathan Lyon in behind, and where do you manage that position? Here's another one, and he's got some work to do. Let's ride on board with the driver from Halifax, Nova Scotia, your point leader in the series, Keegan Leahy.
You can pick up a lot of differences, Tim, looking at those onboards, and it's, far more than just what room of the house or what room of the apartment they're racing in, but it comes down to the gear, the setup that they're racing on, but as well, what they're doing. Very talkative was Keegan Leahy back there as he runs in 22nd. Other drivers talk almost never during the race.
And we look at that number 3 coming down here, the 37 of Christian Chalner in behind as they battle it out for position number 9 and 10. And here's the Coke on board with Blake Reynolds as he tries to dig a little bit further into the top 10.
That is a duo of Team Dillon Esports drivers on board with the Coca-Cola on board. Blake Reynolds and then Michael Guest. We pick up a battle, though, inside of the top 5. Logan Clampett in the number 4 spot was trying to either get to the outside of Bobby Zelensky, Tim, and or hold off Keister all at the same time. But in those heats, we saw pretty consistently the top 2-3 trucks or whatever be able to pull away. This is but a 6-7 truck train here. They are not letting pole sitter Jake Nichols run away with this one. Clean now with 21 laps in the books.
I've been keeping a half eye on this battle here for positions 3 and 4 as there goes Colin Keister taking a look to the inside. He's been able to track down that Valvoline number 99 of Logan Clampett, but Logan was making a couple of moves to the inside about 10 laps into this race on Bobby Zelensky, but just really wasn't able to make the pass. And that sense of urgency right now at the front of the field, you still got 100 laps to go in this race. You really don't need 3rd place right now. Just keep them in your sights. Kane Cook doing the same thing with leader Jake Nichols. And Jake's had a really good season so far. We talked about the points in the opening races of this season. He's been solid, he's been quiet, and he's battling for a playoff spot as you ride on board right now, looking out from Bobby Zelensky at your top 2.
Well, a lot happened that trip around the racetrack. You saw a small bobble by Zelensky the last time in the one. That's because he took a bit of a shot from Logan Clampett, and you have been watching Kane Cook all over him, looking, trying to get to the inside on Jake Nichols. But his Team VRS teammate, Vreya Vallis, still in position number 15. No plus nor minus for that number 2 Chevrolet since the start of the race, and neither of the trucks in front and behind him. Davies 14th, and Nathan Lyon on the bumper in the number 6 truck in 16th, also both running exactly where they started.
Yeah, there's Nathan Lyon having a good run so far as well. Michael Guest right in behind, and right now content to ride as I think I saw that 23 truck go up the hill there just behind them of Casey Kerwin, and he's got Michael Conti to the inside as we ride on board with Nathan Lyon down the back straightaway.
We certainly got a good view wherever you are in the field as this battle up at the front continues on. It has been the Motorsports Ford of Nichols. The distance so far is Ford, Toyota, and Chevrolet 1, 2, and 3. So all 3 of the NASCAR trucks represented in the field. Again, that Ford F-150 NASCAR truck, the newest piece of oval content to the iRacing surface completes now the fact that iRacing has every single car/truck for the top series of NASCAR on the service for members to race on. Off of the back of race leader Nichols, though. Cook looking to the inside. It was a game of checking into turn number 3. The 55 didn't bite.
Kane Cook's been getting a little feisty these last couple of laps, Evan, on the back bumper of the 24, and there's another shot in behind. Logan Clampa gave a little shot in the shorts to Bobby Zalenski in the 83, not enough to move him up the hill, and here comes the 55 again. I think Jake Nichols is playing a little game of cat and mouse. He's leaving that lane down there in turn number 3, right against the curb. It's easy to overshoot turn number 3 on that inside, as the 83 of Zalenski has to stick handle that race truck. The 99 of Logan Clampa goes up the hill with him.
Yeah, Zalenski has had a couple of those close calls, but Logan Clampa impatient because Keister impatient with him. The 17 truck to the inside, and they will dance at a battle for 4th and 5th position. Keister on the bottom should have the benefit, but we have seen a lot of cars on the outside be able to make that defensive line work, and right now, the Burton Clearman Esports Toyota not pulling over as this fight rages on. It was a mistake that time by Nichols. He got into the outside wall. We're 3 wide. Back in the pack as the 90 of Novak slows up. The battle for the race lead is on. Cook to the inside and contact. Nichols gonna spin on the outside of 1 and 2. And a caution for the first time at lap number 35 as your race leader goes around.
And I think Kane Cook just may have got the right rear up into the 24 of Jake Nichols as he was making that pass. And Jake, coming down the front straightaway that second time, got into the wall again. So it looked like maybe the tires, maybe the handling a little bit going away in that Mode Motorsports number 24, and just enough for Kane Cook to capitalize and take the lead back. And our first caution is out, 35 laps into this 120-lap event.
So we'll see if there's any trips to the pit lane, Tim. We mentioned that it is a 2 set of tire limit, and with pit lane open, we think that time by none of the top drivers coming in, and it is not surprising because as we clarified, a 2 set rule means that you only have 1 set in the pits. In 8 tire races, you put it 4 of them. You started the race with them on your truck, and looks like only Nichols going to come down to the pit lane, nobody else in for service at lap 37. Here's what happened, Tim, side by side. Cook on the inside as it happens in turn 1.
It gets a little sideways, slaps the wall here on the front straightaway, and then it looks like Kane Cook got a little bit sideways and might have fed the right rear just a little bit to the 24, and it was kind of minuscule, but just enough to knock the handling even further off that 24 of Jake Nichols to send him around. And as you mentioned, Nichols down probably for some damage repair to try to get that truck massaged a little bit, but I don't expect these guys down for tires until I would anticipate if we get a caution around 75 or 80 before that 100-lap competition caution, you might see some guys near the back come down pit road and get tires. And I would say a lot of those front runners will probably wait until lap 100, but we'll see how this all plays out and how this all cycles through, because as we've seen so far, looking down the lineup, and we saw it in the heat race as well, Evan, track position is key here.
Yeah, admittedly, I can't tell you what the pit stop was for Jake Nichols because he only spent 2.2 seconds in the stall. So clearly, even he opting not to go for that replacement set of tires, and with only 1 set available down there, unless you don't want to get a little bit crazy and try to split that up. You probably figure maybe a caution flag towards the halfway point in this race would be actually when they opt to go to get those 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles. But the lights are out on top of the pace truck, so we're going to get set for a restart with the race lead handed over to Cade Cook. You'll have a lot more freedom to control this restart than what we saw out of Jake Nichols on the initial start of this race. 39 laps down, 81 laps to go. Green flag back in the air. So 1 and 2 going to be clear as Zelensky maintains second. The battle on for third. That is the 99 of Logan Clampett on the inside of Keister. Making work at a turn 2, squeezes away. He maintains third.
And you see that battle back behind the Coca-Cola Energy number 46 as Jimmy Mullis begins to move. He's got Alex McCollum to the outside. There's two drivers that do a fair amount of short track racing on iRacing, whether it's in these top 3 NASCAR or the super late model cars that you have here on iRacing. So they've got plenty of laps around North Wilkesboro, albeit not necessarily in this truck, and they continue to go side by side, and they're pulling along Graham Bolin along for the ride.
Yeah, Bolin up 1 spot for the start of this race. Rolled off at 8th. The ride's in 7th right now as we go for the race lead. Zelensky to the inside of Kane Cook. Here's the look back from Logan Clampett in 3rd. He can't get all the way through. Zelensky too loose that time at turn number 4. It's going to allow Kane Cook to pull right back up alongside him. Still door-to-door now in turn 2.
And Evan, I'm a little surprised that Kane Cook allowed Bobby Zelensky to get to that inside line and let him work down there. Looks like the 55 got a little bit free down into corner number 3, kind of slid the rear end a little bit of that race truck, and it allowed Logan Clampett to get down to the inside and maybe down for the lead. We almost had 3 wide. It gets back to 2, but here comes Logan Clampett, the Burton Clicker Mini Sports, number 99, taking a look for the lead.
He was 3rd last time by the start-finish line. This time to the top of the board. New race leader, Logan Clampett, with a nose out in front of Zelensky. Bobble there by the 83. He will fall to 2nd. Cook is sideways at a turn number 2. And man, these trucks are so much fun to drive. No matter where you stick them in real world or on the surface, he is still sideways at a turn 4. And that'll open up the door for Colin Keister to look to the inside for 3rd.
That truck doesn't look really fun to drive right now. It looks like the tires have really given up on that 55 and holding on for dear life on the outside line. It looks fun from up here, Evan, but I'm sure he's got a handful with that champion number 55 on the outside line. He's got the 18 of Graham Bolin looking back, and in the back there, it looks like there's a couple of battles in through. I think I saw Ray Alfala going side by side trying to pick up a couple of spots as well as Colin Keister continues to work that inside, and once again sideways down into turn number 3 for Kane Cook.
And things have really heated up at the front of the field here off for the restart. You can see back at the back still some more side by side. Tim is Bolin now going to get to the inside of Keister, position himself well, and the great run down the back straightaway, take over 3rd. So Keister plus 4 for the restart alone. But on that first run, the leaders were not able to pull away. You're noticing, looking at Bolin, where'd the top 2 go? There they are further up the road. Clampett and Zelensky running away a little bit. They're about a second and some change ahead of the battle. For 3rd on back, let's go on board with Corey Vincent. He rides in 11th.
And you get your track position back there as we were on board with that number 27 of Corey Vincent, battling side by side, Evan, with the 8 of Michael Conti, the biggest mover. You want to talk about a guy that has some energy. Conti moves up one more, but now he's got the Coca-Cola Energy truck right ahead of him.
Yeah, those are the colors on the number 46 of Jimmy Mullis, who has dropped back a spot, started 9th, runs in 10th, and one of the sportier looking trucks in the field here this evening, trying to get closer to a battle in front of him that includes some drivers who have been on the move. The likes of Alfala, 15th to 8th, and Casey Kerwin, 21st to 9th. Here on board with one of them, Kerwin to the inside in turn 3.
Evan, there's some damage on that 32 of Keegan Leahy, but that might be a little bit of stock car and short track racing, a little bit of the grill being used. He might have used that bumper a little bit to pick up some positions, and we've seen that in previous rounds, but Leahy started deep in this field and now working up to the 27 of Corey Vincent, about midway through this pack, just behind that battle that we said a little bit earlier between Michael Conti and the 46 of Jimmy Mullis. And it looks like the 10 is also coming to the front as well, and look at that little bit of cosmetic front end damage.
Yeah, the front end of that number 32 truck has seen some better days. It's pretty torn up, but it's not slowing Leahy down for the moment. And somebody was flipping on the back straightaway. That was Colin Keister from position number 5. The caution flag is out, and Colin Keister wrecked on his own on the back straightaway.
The 23 of Casey Kerwin has some smoke pouring from that race truck as well, and that's a tough break for Casey because we saw him run so well in that last chance qualifier, was all the way up in the top 10, was definitely doing some work, but that's probably going to end his night.
Yeah, there's basically an opening on the back straightaway wall. Colin Keister was 2 up against it, and when that wall kind of tucks away to get out of the racetrack, he hit that wall, and it shot his car back across the track. Kerwin was directly behind him. That's how Kerwin gets damage in all of this, and it looks like the damage on the number 23 going to be terminal because he's down pit road with heavy black smoke. Race leaders a little bit of games that time as some of them faked a look to pit road. Tim, right at halfway, surprised we didn't have more takers from the front of the field.
I'm kind of surprised and I'm kind of not as well. We're used to seeing some of these guys conserve a little bit of tires, but I think they're banking on another caution here in about 20 laps or so. They're definitely banking on a caution in about 40 laps, which would be the competition yellow with 20 laps to go or thereabouts. I think we're waiting for another 15 to 20 laps to really see some strategy start to be played out.
We will take a second look at the chaos, as that is the number 17 machine of Keister here, and we mentioned that opening on the back straightaway wall. Yeah, right there, it sticks out, Tim. There's no sort of buffer or virtual invisible wall. I mean, that is a wall that ducks away, and he was kind of riding the fence into the corner, nicked it where it sticks out, and it sent him across the track. He was just too close up to the outside fence, and I guess that's what happens when you're trying to use every single inch of the racetrack. I mean, you can visibly see that opening there. Maybe that'll encourage some more drivers to give that more space next time.
Yeah, you have to really judge as to where you are on the racetrack, and it's just like coming out of the corner, Evan, and getting a little too much and getting the wall. Colin just drove it into the wall there on the back straightaway and got a little too much than what he bargained for, and that's going to end his night at the end of the day, and it's also going to probably end the night of the 23 of Casey Kerwin. But you got to get everything that you can here as the field lines up behind the pace truck, and beautiful field. Logan Clamp and Bobby Zielinski top 2. We kind of saw them run and hide on that last run, but now what do you do to hold off the rest of those guys like Graham Bolin, Blake Reynolds, and is that Ray Alfala in 5th?
Yeah, he has moved way up. I talked about him battling with, I think it was the truck who had started with Casey Kerwin. We talked about those drivers moving up, but of course Kerwin wrecking out of this race in the most recent incident. But just like that, Alfala, one of your biggest movers, plus 10. How about Michael Conti, Tim, plus 12 in race high P8 right now?
Yeah, he's got some work to do. He's already done some work, but I think there's one that's going to benefit on tires as well. He's doing what he can with those tires on the long run. We've seen it play out before, Evan. He's really good at tire management, but we're in the second half of this race now. We'll see what he can do as you see the Coca-Cola number 3, the 18 of Graham Bolin, getting ready for this restart.
His car giving it down and in. Let's see what the Rodani Don machine clamp. It's gone on the inside. Green flag flies. 57 laps to go from North Wilkesboro. Zielinski slides up in front. Blake Reynolds, he'll defend P2. It'll be a battle for third down the back straightaway. Here comes Graham Bolin to the inside.
Graham Bolin looking to continue the momentum that he's had all season long. The 2 of Ray Alfala, your most recent winner in this series, trying to pick up one more spot. Kane Cook ran so strong earlier. He's mired back in traffic right now. What a great battle here for position number 3, but it's allowing those top 2 once again to establish a gap.
And a bit of contact that time. We've been really seeing, of course, turns 1 and 2 very different, Tim, than 3 and 4 here at North Wilkesboro Speedway. There's no curb really down at 1 and 2, and as you go for the uphill to 3 and 4, there is, so it affects how quarter exit is. There's a spinner in the back of the field. You saw the yellow truck of John Gorlinski get turned. He straightens it out. No yellow. We stay green as Bolin wins out the battle for third.
And you look back there, that number 2 of Ray Alfala continues to be on the hunt, has moved into the top 5, has that momentum from the last round. Let's ride on board with our 5th place driver, Ray Alfala. Look at that smile.
He's going to be feeling good. Look at all the chaos here, though. The back straightaway, 3 wide on the outside line. That is the number 37 car of Christian Challoner moving through the field, Tim. I think the lone truck who went for fresh tires, and he is hauling a mail 3 wide at a 2. The door closed, though. That was Michael Conti in front of him. He is so much faster than everybody else.
But Evan, if he took those tires, it might come back to bite him a little bit later on, but this is definitely fun to watch. 3 wide to the outside, and he is going to try to pick up 2 more positions. Conti and Kane Cook, it looks like they're standing still. Next up is Justin Bolton in the push delivery, number 10, and the only thing that's going to be delivered there is 1 more position, I think, for the 37 at Challoner.
And remember, he took his tires down. That's his only opportunity to. He does not have any more available, so he's faster now. If we get another yellow, Tim, then maybe we'll see the rest of the field want to come in. But if this race stays green, Christian Challoner is sitting on the hot seat. He's looking real good to the outside. He gets around Alfala, around Reynolds. Bolin going to go to the inside. He's going to be to the race lead in 5 laps as the 18 truck slides. What a save by Graham Bolin.
That almost did not work out for Christian Challoner because he was on the outside of that sliding 18 truck. This will be a battle for the lead, and I don't think it's going to be much of a battle, Evan. The 37 of Christian Challoner takes a look to the outside, side by side for the top spot here at Wilkesboro, but it's not going to be much.
And on through, Christian Challoner unchallenged by Logan Clampett. Just can't hold anything to those 60-lap fresher tires. And in the matter of 14 laps since he put the tires on that thing and we went back green flag racing, Christian Challoner has driven through the field, Tim, and if it wasn't impressive enough as is, I mean, look at all the damage on the 37 truck. Challoner making it work irregardless of that.
Yeah, you look back to the field, and we're going to have that competition yellow at lap 100, so at the end of the day, these tires are eventually going to wear off. There's no more tires in the pit of the 37, so that might later on play to his disadvantage unless we get a few cautions in that final 20-lap sprint to the finish. But at this point, I think what Christian Challoner is trying to do here is trying to put everybody he can 1 lap down before we hit that lap 100 mark, because he's showing no signs of saving or slowing down here.
Yeah, one driver joking about that with him over the radio, and he said that's the plan because, as you mentioned, we think that competition yellow is going to come at lap number 100. It could be in and about that range. And in theory, the benefit that he has on tires now going to be in favor of everybody else because we think they're saving their pit stop for that comp yellow. So if he can lap trucks, it would be, of course, less drivers trying to fight him. It's a 19-second lap, though, Tim, around North Wilkesboro Speedway. He is a second faster than everybody else per lap, and we're about 22 laps away from the comp yellow. It may be possible for Christian Challoner to lap a significant portion of the field if he has the green flag laps to do so.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. I don't know if that's going to work out, though. I don't see it working out for him on that comp yellow. Is everybody else going to come down and get tires on these race trucks? Even I think if we have a caution now with about 20 laps before that, I think we're going to see the strategy twofold, because I think you'll see half the field at the back come down, hoping those guys in front of them pit on that comp yellow at 20 to go. But we'll see where they all fall. Santi Tires battling side by side with Phil Diaz in the 75 as they duke it out about mid-pack.
It's the battle amongst everybody else as Challenger now 7 seconds out in front for the race lead here for North Wilkesboro. And you talk about trucks that we had seen up front. Of course, Jake Nichols' teammate, the 75 truck of Phil Diaz, has been working his way through the field. Teammate a little bit further down as this is the battle for positions 3 and 4. Blake Reynolds has got it, but Ray Alfala wants it.
And you look back there as well, Bobby Zielinski was running in second to Logan Clamp, and he fell off the pace a little bit as you see this battle for position number 3. Ray Alfala methodically working his way towards the front of the field, trying to pick up that spot on Blake Reynolds. And look who's coming up here as well. Justin Bolton consistently working his way through the field as well. He started 19th, he's in the top 5, and he's looking just a little bit quicker than these guys in front of him.
We saw Eric J. Smith wreck out of this race, not make it to the feature a little bit earlier. He's tweeting that he thinks Challenger can lap the entire field if this race stays green. We want you to be a part of the conversation as well. Use the hashtag eNASCAR. You are on board with your race leader, and now Challenger has caught the rear of the field, Tim. The more cars that he laps is going to be dependent on how easily he can execute this. The 5 of Matt Busa in 24th lets him go, but the further up the road he gets, the more difficult it'll be. Look at the traffic up there. Those trucks up the road battling for position. They'll be less inclined to get out of his way.
He's got about 16 laps to go or so to lap as many trucks as he can. That's the only strategy that he has right now. He's going to go to the outside of John Gorlinski, Michael Guerrilla up here as well. He's banking on no cautions, period, but obviously there's going to be that competition yellow in about 15 laps or so, give or take. Gorlinski goes to the outside, little slide, and Zach Novak behind goes around.
It's at turn number 2 again. Cautions coming from the tower. We stay green through this one. That is good news for Challenger. He was able to get off of the racetrack, so we stay green. Word from the tower is we're racing, but another car to the outside wall. There's a big wreck, and there is the caution that Christian Challenger did not want to see. And it all started, I think it was, on the outside line with the 6, Tim, of Nathan Lyon. There is the damaged Roush Fenway Ford.
I like what this does with pit strategy, though, Evan. This just throws another wrinkle into it. Not good for Christian Challenger, but for the rest of the field, for those guys on the back half of the top 20 that are still on the lead lap, or 18 that are still on the lead lap, this is going to play some strategy if we have another caution in about 15 laps or so for that competition yellow.
Hey, you have a decision. Do you want to come down now, fight for the track position leading up to the competition caution, or do you wait and, of course, have all the speed headed to it? Your race leader, Challenger, stays out, but we have pit stops. Logan Clampett from 2nd, Alfala from 3rd, Bolton 5th, Zielinski, Ottinger, all the way through P7 and 8. So your race lead trucks flocking to the pit lane.
And I think this is a good call. If you see those trucks coming down, you kind of have to come with them if you're the middle of the pack. Christian Challenger made his bed already. He's taken his tires. There's no more sets of tires left in the pits for the 37 truck, so he has what he has, and you can see all the names moving off to your left-hand side on your ticker of those drivers coming down and not coming down. There goes the 5 of Matt Busa, going to head down pit road, but Christian Challenger can't do anything else here, Evan. He's got to stay out on the racetrack, and this might be a long 30 laps for him with everybody else coming down here.
Yeah, more trucks in this time that had initially stayed out. You mentioned Bolin there, the Santiago Tires, more drivers in as well. A lot of trucks at the back of the pack in for damage repairs. It would be ideal if Challenger could bring that truck in to get it fixed. But again, this strategy now has to rely on the fact that he'll be on the older tires. He needs to defend the track position. But again, not everybody pitted. So Challenger up front. As we take a second look at this first, and then we'll go through the pit stop breakdown. Let's watch what happened to the 6 truck at all of this. And Tim, it starts with Nathan Lyon on his own.
Yeah, Nathan Lyon going to bring it down here to corner number 1. And it looks like that truck may have just stepped out from him. And indeed it did, up the hill and overcorrects into the wall. And Alex McCollum nowhere to go in that number 54. But that will draw the caution flag. And confirmation from Tyler Hudson in the server. This is not the competition yellow flag. So there's going to be another caution here down the road in a few laps time. So that might help Christian Chalner, might help some of those drivers that stayed out in behind. Looks like Corey Vincent and Phil Diaz also stayed out on the racetrack. I don't mind that call if the competition caution's a little ways down the road, but I don't know what 10 laps or 12 laps or so on the tires is really going to make that difference.
The lights out on top of the base truck. We get set for a restart. It is still the now 30-lap-old tires for Christian Chalner from the race lead. Corey Vincent and Phil Diaz have yet to pit at all tonight. They are second and third, and it is fresh tires from this pit cycle for Logan Clampett in the number 4 position and everybody else on back. So how will the tire game shake out with 92 laps down? We're back on the green.
And in behind is going to be the battle, Evan. There goes the 3. Here comes fresh tires. 27.75 stuck in the middle going backwards.
In the 27 is slow. He drops back in the middle. So did the 75 of Phil Diaz. The 2 trucks who didn't pit drop like rocks. Now a battle for the race lead. 3 wide. Clampett with the 3 machine as well of Reynolds to the inside. They both get around Christian Chalner. And they're going to fight side by side amongst themselves down the back straightaway. Clampett high. Reynolds low. A battle for the race lead coming to lap number 95.
They continue to go side by side, the outside line with Logan Clampett trying to get that momentum off the corner. Blake Reynolds trying to get to that inside and trying to get that run, but look at that Valvoline 99. What a run off corner number 2, and what a run to the lead. Back for position number 4 now. That 10 of Justin Bolton on the outside as you ride on board with Ray Alfala from P3.
Plenty of radio communication there with Ray Alfala and his team as he makes the pass to Blake Reynolds, and it is his teammate trying to follow suit. Bobby Zelensky to the inside of the number 3 Chevrolet. He makes the pass and takes over third, Tim. 2 laps this time by with that competition yellow, lap number 100.
So we're getting closer to that competition yellow. Logan Clampett in the 99 will lead them down through 3 and 4. Ray Alfala has moved it to second. Bobby Zelensky in third. And we are getting ready to see that yellow silk fly. And there it is, competition yellow here at Wilkesboro to set up a 20-lap dash to the finish.
So just shy of lap number 100, our competition to caution is out, and if we learned anything there, Tim, is that you want the tires. And listen, I understand the thinking in all of this by not pitting. If I was Phil Diaz and Corey Vincent up at the front of the field, however, you were getting passed by trucks with 80-lap fresher tires, essentially. Sure, the cars who have yet to pit, trucks I should say, that have yet to pit are going to come in this time. I think that is really only Diaz, Vincent, and Gorlinski. But your tires are only going to be, 10 laps fresher. They're not going to be 80 laps fresher. So you'll have an advantage, but is it going to be enough of an advantage to get you through traffic in 20 laps? I don't think so. I think the drivers who pitted the yellow before this played the strategy game correctly.
I'll play the benefit of a doubt, play the devil's advocate here, Evan. If I'm Phil Diaz and I'm Corey Vincent, I kind of banked on more drivers staying out on the racetrack with me and trying to use that strategy. I kind of figured there would be a couple of more trucks, but maybe that caution fell too late per se, too close to that competition yellow, and everybody came down onto pit road. I think if it fell at lap 70 maybe, might be a 10-lap difference, might be a little bit of difference knowing that there's a competition caution 25 laps up the road as opposed to about 10 laps up the road. But the drivers that were up front when we started this race, for the most part, are still up front. 3 drivers that started in the top 5 still run in the top 5. Ray Alfala, we knew he would be quick. Justin Bolton, he's a short track guy. He's done some short track racing in his career. He's running up in the top 5. Nick Ottinger loves these short tracks as well. He's come from the back of the field all the way up to position number 6. So there's some drivers that have fought their way to the front for the first 100 laps, and there's some more fighting to do because there's $500 on the line and there's some pride to be had here too.
Yeah, no points available in this All-Star Special. It is just the bragging rights and the cash on the line. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time for our next points race for the virtual Indianapolis Motor Speedway. You can catch coverage of that one Tuesday, June the 30th, right back here on the iRacing Sports Network and streaming live at eNASCAR.com, as always, at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Go to eNASCAR.com, though, for more information on the world of eNASCAR and, of course, when you can tune in to catch more coverage. So here we go. Lights out on top of the iRacing official pace truck. This restart will be with 17 laps to go. The truck's on fresh tires. You get a 10-lap benefit on the tires for Kane Cook, Phil Diaz, and Corey Vincent. Looks like John Gorlinski, Michael Guest also just pitted. They are 11th on back. So your top 10 all working. About the 14-lap old tires. Christian Challenger's on the oldest. He'll probably fall like a rock in the final laps here from North Wilkesboro. Green flag flies for Logan Clamp, and it's a good jump. He's got a big advantage over the fight for second in turn one.
There's the two of Ray Alfaro to the outside. He spun the tires. He wasn't ready for that restart, Evan. The 83 of Bobby Zelensky now moves to the inside. The two VRS teammates battling side by side for position number 2. Zelensky ran up front earlier with Logan Clamp, and he's got to try to position himself, though, to get back there, but he's got his teammate to the outside.
Well, we saw some drivers, teammates make contact earlier in this race. The Jim Beaver Esports guys. We'll see what happens now in the battle between the team VRS entries. It is Reynolds on the inside. He's going to move Alfaro up and out of the way. Gave him a shot to the door, and it moves him on through. So Reynolds rockets to third, and now it's Justin Bolton, Tim, who we haven't talked much about since the start of this thing. He's challenging for fourth. You're on board with the Stuart Haas Esports entry.
He's got some deliveries to make, Evan, and he's trying to get up there to the front, but he's got the mailman on the outside of Ray Alfaro in the 2 as they try to push their way towards the front. They don't want to give an inch right now. There's 14, now 13 laps to go, and speaking about not giving an inch, Ottinger is wearing out the back tailgate of that VRS number 2.
Contact, Ray Alfaro, the 2 truck, it's turned, he's into the outside wall, and it is a huge mess in turn number 4. Caution with 11 laps to go.
It looked like for a moment that they were going to get it saved. It looked like Ray Alfaro might have been knocked sideways and then knocked straight again almost, Evan, but everybody else piled in behind, and now we're going to have another restart with inside of 10 laps to go. A tough break for Ray Alfaro, but they were racing hard for those spots at the end, trying to position themselves to put themselves in a spot to win this thing.
Well, here's the second look. We were on board with it when it happened live. Alfaro into the corner, Bull into the inside, hits the curbs, turns the 2. Then you see the 25 of Ottinger get turned. The 75 is in traffic. A lot of damage there for Phil Diaz, and it was a huge mess. At least a half a dozen trucks get some sort of damage in that. And now this will bridge us to a restart inside of 10 laps to go. Logan Clampett's advantage evaporated. He'll have to go through the motions on another restart, Tim. And his last restart worked so well because Ray Alfaro spun the tires on the outside. Zelensky going to have to make sure he can get the launch if he wants to be up there. Otherwise, I suspect he'll be dealing with Reynolds in a fight for P2 more so than fighting for the race lead.
Well, these guys kind of played a little cat and mouse a little bit earlier, Evan, on the long run that we had to really start this race, or the second run that we had to continue this race here for the All-Star exhibition. So I think these guys know each other from earlier in the race. I think they know what each other is going to do. Obviously, Logan Clampett has the control on this restart, but I think Bobby Zalenski might have something tucked away in the back pocket as well. So don't count out that 83. Blake Reynolds has been strong all night long, and Justin Bolton has been so darn consistent coming from the back of the field from position 19 all the way up into the top 4. I don't think he's done yet either.
And we'll see just how many attempts at trying to get this thing done we will get here from North Wilkesboro. Tim, I always like to look at the plus minus, and of course tonight not maybe as indicative on speed as it would be on a normal week because of the heat races and the LCQ that will be used to qualify into this one, but Justin Bolton qualified in from heats, but it was way at the back. He started 19th. The highest running LCQ transferee is Nick Ottinger, who started dead last in this race in P26. His William Byron Esports Logitech G Chevy is P7 right now, and with the torn up truck, I think tells the tale of the tape that if you came from traffic, it's been a bit of a rough night per se.
But remember, Nick Ottinger, there was those fireworks with Ryan Luza at the end of that last chance qualifier. At one point, he probably thought he was loading up and going home early, but he ends up right now in position number 7, well within the top 10. And you mentioned those green white checker attempts. How many might there be? If you're Nick Ottinger, you're hoping for some fireworks up in front. You already saw some in front of you in that last chance qualifier, so heck, why not some more, right?
Well, if you want more, we got some, because we are set for a restart. Count them 5 laps to go for the virtual North Wilkesboro Speedway. Logan Clampett, Bobby Zalenski, side by side on the front row. Green flag flies. We're back underway. And it's Zalenski who nearly gets turned in front of the pack. They're 4 wide. And at turn number 2, he saves it. No caution for the moment. We stay green. Now Zalenski turned again by Gorlinski. Still no yellow. Logan Clampett to 4 laps to go.
We should have wadded up half the field, but now up in front, Logan Clampett controls, but here comes Blake Reynolds, the Coca-Cola onboard in position number 2, working up to the leader. What does he have here? We come to 3 to go.
This time by going to be Popsicle 6 to the air as they go downhill into turn number 1, 14 degrees of banking at this 0.625 mile speedway. The difference is a car length. Clampett still the advantage.
I'm waiting for turn number 3 here, Evan. We mentioned earlier, turn number 3 really hard, or really easy to overdrive. They're going to come to the white flag this time. If Blake Reynolds makes the move for the win, he makes it down here in turn 3. We'll see what 1 and 2 has.
Lost a little bit of time that last time through 3 and 4. Now it's the final run down the back straightaway. The gap is going to glow up the hill down into turn number 3. He goes to the bumper once, twice. Clampett spins. Reynolds into the outside wall. And from P3, Graham Bolin wins the All-Star race at North Wilkesboro Speedway.
Is that enough fireworks for you at the end of the race? Nick Ottinger is going to finish in position number 3 through all of that, but Graham Bolin, right place, right time. Mentioned packing it down to turn number 3. That's exactly what Blake Reynolds did. He did everything he could to try to win the race and move Logan Clampett, but it didn't work out for him, but it worked out for Graham Bolin.
Yeah, the celebration is on the front straightaway as we take a look at your Coca-Cola winning moment tonight for the North Wilkesboro Speedway. As he celebrates, this winning moment is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official fan refreshment of eNASCAR. And it was the bump and run, Tim, that we all knew was on the table, but admittedly I thought he was too far away to make it happen. But Blake Reynolds drove it in hard, gave him one shot, gave him two, and as Clampett spun, he came back up the hill, collecting the three, and Graham Bolin bowled his way through the chaos to steal the win as we take a look at tonight's results.
Yeah, you look through your top 10 here. Graham Bolin obviously going to victory lane. Kane Cook had a strong night to start off. Going to finish in position number 6, though. Jake Nichols had an up-and-down night as well, coming home in position number 5, and all the way back to Michael Guerrilla throughout your top 10.
And continuing on down through some of these drivers, had a rough go at it, but a lot of them were up front. Alfala, Zelensky, Challoner for a moment we thought was going to lap the whole field. He finishes 14th. Blake Reynolds and Logan Clampett can't decide it amongst themselves. They do not make it and finish 15th and 16th spot. And then the rest of these trucks laps down through Keegan Leahy in P20.
And then looking back at the back of the field, these drivers, for a plus side, Evan, they made it into the show. For the other side, they didn't finish this race, or if they finished the race, they finished with a ton of damage all the way back to Colin Keister, who had a solid top 5 run before what happened. He finishes 26th.
To look top to bottom at your full race results here tonight for the virtual North Wilkesboro Speedway. And I think it is safe to say, Tim, this All-Star race has been an unofficial event for so many years, organized oftentimes by Ray Alfala and his group to give these drivers something fun to do. And it was real great to see it be officially sanctioned this year with the folks over at iRacing, and of course our partners at Coca-Cola and ASUS helping us put it on. And the combination of trucks and the 87 North Wilkesboro certainly put on a show tonight. What a finish.
I like the strategy that the tire set limits brought as well, Evan. Obviously, we saw it with Christian Chalner. I think with that competition caution at the end, the way the caution fell just before, it kind of muddied the waters a little bit of what some of these teams would have done. But at the end of the day, if I'm Tyler Hudson and I'm the crew over there at Race Officials for iRacing, I'm looking hard at that for Indianapolis because that was fun.
Yeah, that is, of course, as you mentioned, new to the iRacing service where you could institute those tire limits, and it certainly had a big hand in the strategy here this evening. Let's chat with your race winner tonight from North Wilkesboro. It is the driver of the number 18 Interstate Batteries Toyota, Graham Bolin. And Graham, congratulations, white flag, you're in third. Those guys are about a half a second up the road. Did you envision yourself coming across with the checkered flag?
No, I thought that maybe Blake was going to move him out of the way, but I didn't expect him to overcorrect into him, and I just came through. It was really lucky. And first of all, I'd like to say sorry to Ray. I didn't really mean to. I hit the bumps wrong, and I shot up into his left rear.
Of course, talk us through this one. You mentioned the contact with Ray. That was in the closing a couple of laps. You started this one in position 8, but let's kind of go all the way back to the heat races where it all began. How did these trucks handle at this racetrack, and did it look as fun? I guess, was it as fun from behind the wheel as it looked from our perspective?
No, it was actually really fun. Like the setup was loose. You had to have a lot of throttle control, and you had to save a lot of tire. Like you had to super save, so I liked it.
$500 on the line as well here this evening doesn't hurt either. I know that, the points are not on the line, and you certainly could have benefited if tonight was a points-paying race win, being 10th in the standings. But, to be able to just come out here and have some fun with the guys that, in 2 weeks' time, you'll be super tense and serious once more. I guess safe to say you had fun tonight in the All-Star?
Yeah, it was really fun. Working through the field and stuff like that. Relatively clean. There was some aggressive driving like I did and turned somebody and like all around the field, but all in all, it was really fun. Thank you to Team Interstate, Rowdy Energy, everybody at Joe Gibbs Racing for the opportunity.
Thanks for chatting with us, Graham, and good luck at Indianapolis. We'll catch you then.
All right, thank you, Evan.
The race winner tonight for North Wilkesboro with the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series All-Star Race. And a race win to Graham Bolin in dramatic fashion. The official margin to victory, Tim, in this one, 0.4 of a second, but that doesn't tell the tale of a tape. What a final lap here tonight in this one.
Yeah, Justin Bolton coming home in position number 2, and he had to work his way up from 19th all the way up to position number 2. Let's talk about coming through the field, because that wasn't easy, and I know it deserves a sip. Hey, Justin, it's Tim Terry. You got a copy?
Tim, I think he's too busy celebrating the chat right now.
Well, I would celebrate with the way that he moved up from the back of the field up to position number 2. He's definitely in a need to celebrate, but we'll see if we can't get a hold of Justin Bolton here and talk to him about the second place finish that he had this evening, coming from position number 19, working his way through traffic and getting to that runner-up spot.
Well, we talked earlier about all 3 different truck manufacturers represented in the field tonight. Toyota, Ford, Chevy go 1, 2, 3, and some of our NASCAR team partners at the very top of the running order with, of course, the Joe Gibbs entry of Bolin, the Stewart Haas Esports Ford of Bolton in second, and NASCAR Cup Series driver represented for William Byron Esports, Nick Ottinger, finishing in third. I think is kind of a good way, Tim, to highlight how far this series has come in so many ways. And, oftentimes you expect the All-Star race to be a little bit different. We could have ran Cup cars here and put these guys in their element. But, to get into this series at one point, all these drivers had to drive a truck in their official iRacing careers. So a little bit of a throwback. And I think I mentioned it earlier that the trucks may be my favorite of the top 3 in the NASCAR ranks. It is such a fun truck to drive and as well spectate, because it put on a great show tonight, including the big mess on the front straightaway that I'm sure the virtual fans really enjoyed.
And when you look at the official servers as well, and the official sessions, C Fixed and C Open, very popular as well. So we'll see if we can't get a hold of Justin Bolton one more time. Finished in position number 2. Justin, you got a copy this time?
I think I got you guys.
Yeah, we got you there. Second place, well-deserved, but it was a hard-fought battle. Talk about working through traffic here, because it looked like in the first half of the race, it was pretty hard to pass.
Yeah, we kind of just sat there and rode around half throttle for the first 65 laps of the race. That was the plan all along, and I didn't know if it was going to work out or not, but ended up being pretty good at the end there. A lot of guys were just sliding around everywhere and couldn't handle anything. So that goes back to late model days and having to save for 100 laps on a single set of tires in real life. So it was a lot of fun. I had a blast coming through the field there and racing with Conti and all those guys trying to come up through there, and ended up getting to 4th at the end of that long run. Feel like 20 more laps, green, we could have got to the lead, but it is what it is. Ended up pitting from 4th and coming out 4th, and then ended up 2nd.
What did you see out of your windshield at the end? Because that was wild for the lead. How did you navigate that in the last lap?
Well, I was kind of really upset we got shoved up to the outside fence in turn 1 on that last restart, but ended up driving down the hill and coming out right behind Graham, still in 4th somehow. So just tried to get to him in case they had a problem up front, or we ended up having another yellow one to be 3rd. But Graham did a really good job saving his rear tires there, and able to come off the corner real well and get away from me. So didn't have anything for him, and then they did their deal in 3 and 4. So like I said, came out 2nd there and can't be mad with that.
You mentioned the late model. Want to ask you about the tire set limit that we had tonight as well. It brought in an extra element of strategy. What did you think of that?
I love it. Everything about it. That, like I said, I grew up short track racing, and you always got to worry about saving your tires. We even ran Anderson in a legend car in like 2015, and we had to save tires there. It's just so abrasive. So just working on saving the right rear the whole time really brings driver into it, even though it is a fixed setup. Everyone ends up with different tire wear and all kinds of different strategies on when they want to go and where they want to go. Not really a lot to move around with the track tonight. Kind of ended up in one groove, but you were able to kind of run the top if you had better tires. If you didn't, you had to run the bottom and just try and hold on. So, like I said, just adds another element, even with these fixed setups, with different sets of tires. And, even if we had a longer race, if we didn't have that competition caution, we would have been able to see guys pit at different times, like Challenger tried to do, and come through and lap the field. And it just adds another element to the broadcast and to the race itself.
And for those that don't know, your work with Stewart Haas Racing, you guys had a pretty good finish to the weekend, didn't you?
Yeah, our Saturday didn't start off too well. Lost the right side lead rail and lost 3 of our crew members. But Dax, the engineer from the 4 car, the engineer from the 10 car, and then we had Zippy on the box. They all came over to help and ended up with a win on Sunday. Knew we had a fast car on Saturday. Didn't have the best car on Sunday, but ended up getting the late caution and passing the 9 there. The 9 was the best car all weekend, but like I said, those last cautions just ended up screwing him and gave us a win.
Well, congratulations on tonight. Congratulations on the weekend. Make sure you save one of those beers for Kenny. That's Justin Bolton coming home in position number 2. What a show for him. And another guy that was really solid at the end, Evan, Nick Ottinger comes home with 3rd.
Yeah, and we'll continue on down the road and talk with the driver of the number 25 machine now. Nick, congratulations on a good result from the very back to almost the very front, a run from P26 to 3 in the feature. Just tell us about it.
I will tell you, it was very hard to get up there. I mean, our Logitech machine was, I will say, was very sporty on the long run we had before the competition caution. Holden, just my crew chief, just made sure I kept biding my time and told me to back my pace up just to what I needed. It was very, very tedious to get through initial throttle to exit tonight, and it showed just how sideways people were. I mean, we had a lot of fun passing people, a lot of expected people you could race, unexpected people you were around, just very tight racing where you just could not, you absolutely could not just get held up and stuck on the bottom. So you kind of had to use that bumper a little more than you wanted to.
Was just talking to Justin Bolton to P2 about how those tire limits came into effect this evening, and you ended up making the right call. That pitting on the yellow before the competition yellow ends up being the right decision, but we saw some other drivers go earlier, others go later. What it went into that decision, which gets you up here on the podium?
I mean, you got to outweigh, obviously who you're racing against, but the advantage of who's going to be in front of you, how many cars, and how many cars are going to be behind you. And we just made the right decision, Holden did, and I mean, hats off to him. I mean, he makes the best decisions as a crew chief I can ask for. I mean, a lot of times it goes our way, and just like racing, it doesn't. I mean, tonight it went our way. Unfortunately, we had to do it the hard way to get the last transfer spot in the consolation, but it was worth it. I mean, I had a lot of fun tonight. I was proud to represent William, his team, and Logitech G, Sim Seats, and just everybody who actually helps us. I mean, this was a fun event. Very hard to drive, very hard to pass.
I'll tell you what, in our intro every night, you're the one saying how you'd wreck your grandma if a checkered flag at a championship was on the line. We saw the race finish in this one and come to blows with the top 2 guys taking each other out and you cruising to 3rd. What was your view like there on the final lap?
It was hectic. I didn't know which way to go. I just tried to get the wheel to the left and actually had to downshift to 3rd to kind of slow it down a little bit to get past them. I seen that move coming. I mean, who wouldn't kind of get into somebody in the last set of corners to kind of win one of these things, even if it was for an all-star race? I mean, unfortunate for Logan because, I mean, he drove a good race from what I saw. I mean, I know we're at different ends of the spectrum with him up front for most of the night and us coming from dead last here, but it's expected. I mean, short track, truck race, and I mean, none of us really do these truck races a lot, so you can kind of beat and bang at these short tracks.
Well, it has been a successful start to the regular season for you as we head off to Indianapolis with you at a playoff position, Nick. So congratulations on a good result here, but we know it is back to business and we'll catch you at the Brickyard.
I appreciate it. You guys tune in this Sunday, too, to watch the old Willoughby hopefully get a check.
Boss Man's happy because one of his cars is in the top 3, and both of those William Byron Esports entries are top 12 in the points at the halfway point of the regular season. But a big thanks, Graham Boland, Justin Bolton, and Nick Ottinger for chatting with us post-race in this one, Tim. And our Coca-Cola move of the race is the final lap of this one. Graham Boland started 3rd, walked away with the checkered. Let's relive it.
Final lap, heck, final corners. You're right on board. Going down into corner number 1. We anticipated the big send to happen down in corner number 3, but Evan, 1 and 2 really set it up. He had a great run, and then he ships it on in.
And you can see one bit of contact, but the second one right there, it spins Clampett. He comes up, takes up Reynolds, who is up and over. And it was the 18 machine through the smoke and on the inside line who goes to victory lane. Graham Boland with our Coca-Cola move of the race. Tim, question, are we giving the move of the race to Graham for not wrecking, or are we giving it to the other guys for wrecking?
Well, I think if it's the move of the race to take the victory, it's Graham Boland to avoid that. But definitely that move ended up giving Graham Boland the victory. But congratulations to the 18. He's been strong all season, Evan, has been consistent. He's a couple of spots out when it comes to that playoff position. But we'll see if he can get back into it, see if he can ride that momentum to Indianapolis in 2 weeks.
If the next time we do it for points. That's it for us here tonight from North Wilkesboro Speedway. On behalf of our entire team at eNASCAR, at iRacing, and for the broadcast crew downstairs, for Alex Horn, Cisco Scaramuza, Drew Adamson, James Pike, Justin Prince, Tim Burns, Jake Kennedy, and everybody else involved, as well as your broadcast team tonight. For Tim Terry and myself, Evan Pasoko, want to thank you for tuning in. With Doug Hunt downstairs as well, and congratulate Graham Boland, race winner here tonight in the All-Star race. We're back in 2 weeks' time from the virtual Indianapolis Motor Speedway for round number 9. That race and to every race of the 2020 eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series can be found right here on the iRacing Esports Network. Until next time, good night.